This is Unemployed Jeff. Conversations about identity, uncertainty, and what's left when work has kind of fallen away. As you can assume, I'm Jeff. And my goal is you walk away at least feeling like you're not alone and knowing that you have value. Who is this for? This is for people who are unemployed, underemployed, burned out, or quietly questioning their career identity. Heavy stuff. But it's also, I just want people to know you're not alone. It's for people who are tired of being told to reframe everything as an opportunity. It's for people who are dealing with the invisible work of holding themselves together while the outside world keeps asking for updates. Sometimes it'll just be talking. Sometimes I'll have conversations with other people who've been through this, not because they figured it out, but because they lived through the in-between, or people who are currently living in the in-between. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh, someone finally said it out loud, then this is for you. And I don't know where the podcast is going to go yet. And honestly, that to me feels pretty appropriate. What I do know is that I'm going to show up honestly. I'm not going to rush the story. And I'm not going to pretend this part of life doesn't matter. If you're here, thank you. And if you're in the middle of your own reset, you're not behind, you're not broken, and you're not doing this wrong. I'm glad you're here. Social drift. When relationships start to change quietly. There's something else that happens during unemployment that people don't warn you about. And it's not dramatic. No one announces it. Your relationships just start to shift quietly. And it's not a breakup. It's a fade. Because friends don't disappear all at once. They don't say anything wrong. They don't do anything offensive. They just become a little harder to reach. Texts take longer. Plans happen without you. Conversations stay much lighter than they used to. And it's not because anyone is cruel. It's because your lives are suddenly moving at different speeds. Because at one point, work used to do the connecting. Work used to carry a lot of weight socially. It gave you a shared language, common reference points, a reason to be invited. When work goes away, so does that automatic connection. You're no longer inside the same rhythm. And without meaning to, people don't quite know how to place you. At some point, you realize you didn't lose friends. You lost the calendar that puts you in the same rooms. And it creates this awkwardness that no one talks about. It's this mutual discomfort that settles in. People don't know what to ask. They don't want to say the wrong thing. And they don't want to remind you of something painful. So they keep things very surface level, real shallow. And you feel that, even if you can't point to it. No rejection. It's just distance. And here's the part that's harder to admit. When you start pulling back too. You pull back too. You don't always feel like explaining yourself. You don't want to be the heavy one in the room. You don't want to answer follow-up questions you didn't ask for. Or sometimes you decline the invite. Or don't respond right away. Or tell yourself you'll reconnect later. Social drift is definitely mutual. And it's rarely intentional. At some point, you realize you're not antisocial. You're just tired of context setting. And there's also a strange shift between networks and relationships. Your Professional networks still exist, technically, but it starts to feel transactional, scheduled, purpose-driven. Meanwhile, personal relationships feel harder to navigate because they weren't built for uncertainty. You're not sure where to show up as yourself anymore. There's another version of social drift that's harder to talk about. It's when some of your closest personal friendships came from work. Not networking connections, not casual colleagues, real friendships. The kind where you talked about life, not just projects. You knew or know each other's families. You've went through stress together, you've built trust under pressure. And at some point, those relationships crossed a line from work friends into just friends. Or at least you thought they did. When work ends, those relationships enter a strange gray zone. No one says anything wrong. No one formally exits your life, but something changes. The shared context disappears. The daily proximity is gone. And suddenly you're not sure what the friendship was anchored to. That uncertainty can hurt more than a clean break because you start asking yourself questions you never had to ask before. Was this friendship real, or was it proximity? Was it mutual, or was it situational? Did it survive because of connection or because of calendar invites? And it's a quiet disappointment. What's painful isn't that people move on. It's realizing that the depth you felt might have not been symmetrical. That the friendship lived comfortably inside work, but didn't quite know how to exist outside of it. And that realization can feel personal, even when it isn't meant to be. At some point, you realize you didn't lose friends. You lost the hallway where the friendship lived. Why does this happen? It doesn't mean those relationships were fake. Shared intensity creates real bonds. Working closely under pressure accelerates intimacy. But some relationships are context dependent. They're real, just not portable. And when the context disappears, the relationship doesn't always know where to land. If this resonates, if you felt surprised or disappointed by how some work-born friendships change, that doesn't make you naive. It makes you human. You trusted what felt real in the moment, and it was real, even if it didn't last. Social drift isn't just about losing people. Sometimes it's about losing the version of the relationship you believed would survive change. And that's a quiet kind of grief. If this resonates, I want to be clear about something. This isn't a failure of character, and it isn't proof that people only valued you for your job. It's what happens when identity changes faster than relationships can adjust. Drift isn't betrayal, it's lag. So if you've felt slightly out of sync lately, socially, relationships, emotionally, that doesn't mean you've been left behind. It means you're between versions of your life. Some connections will re-anchor, some will change shape, some may fade. And that's painful, but it's also human. You don't need to force closeness, and you don't need to disappear. You're allowed to be where you are. If you're in this space You don't need to fix it right now. You just need to know you're not alone in it. We'll talk again soon.